Welcome to Empty Nesters True Crime Podcast, where we explore chilling mysteries and dark secrets. With their nest now empty, Susan and Nancy have more time to uncover the truth and venture into the unknown. Let's step into the shadows together, shall we?
Good evening, Susan.
Hey, Nancy, how are you?
I'm good. How is everybody?
Everybody's doing really well.
I like that picture you sent. So Susan was on a FaceTime with your daughter, son, another daughter. I'm like, that's cool. I love that we have this.
I got a text message about 9:30 last night from my son, Zach, that lives out west. And he said, hey, Sydney and Ariel, we're all going to play this game. And I was like, okay, that sounds cool. And he's like, you want to play? And I'm like, well, how do you play? So they sent me a link. I guess it's through like a Discord, like the app Discord, and you play a game. And we played, there's all kinds of games. So once I finally figured out how to play the game, like how to work the whole Discord game thing, I kicked their ass at trivia.
Yes.
I said to them when their question was, which these countries is in South America? And I just whooped their ass. And I said, it shows none of you got a globe for Christmas.
That's so cool that you have because you all know Susan's kids are all over the country. So that's really cool.
Yeah. I got a globe for Christmas when I was like in 5th grade.
You didn't get your kids one?
All I wanted was a Holly Hobby oven, and under the tree I was like, that box right there, that's the Holly Hobby oven.
And it was a globe.
It was a damn globe. I was so upset. but I did get a Holly Hobby oven that year. My parents, that was well played.
Oh, that year you did get it, but that wasn't it.
I did get they told me I was too old for a Holly Hobby oven, and at 5th grade probably, but I really wanted one.
Loved Holly Hobby.
And I did get one,
Yay.
But they had to fuck with me with the globe first because that's how they were. But it shows that because of that incident, none of my kids got a globe, and they needed one.
To kick their butt at trivia.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah. The game also has like this thing where you do rap. I will not be touring with Eminem anytime soon. But it was a lot of fun. We played for about an hour, and I told him, I said, y'all, I got to go to bed.
That's neat though. Like I said, with your kids all over the country and to get on and be able to do stuff like that. Very cool.
Yeah. And it's kind of like they're right there. So that was pretty neat.
I mean, that's our thing, Susan. We're empty nesters, but, you know, we anytime we get with them kids, any way we can get it, we'll take it.
Yeah, that's right. And I get to see my grandson Saturday. I'm going to babysit while they go to a wedding. So he is going to get spool rotten. Got a game over here. It's called Feed the Fish. And he and I will be feeding the fish. His dad loves to go fishing. So we're going to be feeding the fish.
How fun.
And whatever else he wants to do at 8 months old.
8 months old. Cute.
Little chunkaroo.
Okay. So let's get into our story. We're going to start the story. We hear the cat.
That is the cat. She says, shut up, Susan. The banter's over. Let Nancy tell the story.
They say we talk too much. Now we get the cat that wants to butt in on us here, but we love it. Susan's got cats, dogs. I don't know where Lola went, but she's my favorite. She is a dog.
Oh, she's everybody's favorite.
Okay, so we are going to start with a 15-year-old girl. Her name is Heather Robinson. So she's home one night, sitting by the phone, waiting for a friend to call. And her parents were kind of strict that she wasn't allowed to get calls after 9 p.m.
Oh, God.
So when that phone rang, she grabbed it really quick. But do you remember days of the landline phones where 2 people could answer at the same time?
Yeah, because I wasn't allowed to get phone calls after 9 either.
You picked up real quick. But what she didn't know is her dad picked it up too. But when she heard him talking, she stayed quiet. Because remember, you could do that and they wouldn't know you're on the other end. You kind of just, don't breathe too loudly. Those days were kind of fun. You could eavesdrop on conversations.
Yep. You had to pick it up real slow and keep the little receiver thing down and then lift it up. Yep.
So her dad answered at the same time. And on the other end, it's her Uncle John's son-in-law. Does that make sense? So it's her dad's brother's son-in-law.
So he's married to the dad's brother's daughter.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that's who's on the phone. And she heard the caller say, John which is the brother's dad, has been arrested. What you're about to find out would shake up their lives like no one could imagine. It's funny how one call can change your whole life. The caller said the cops believe John may be connected to Heather, the girl on the line's biological mother. Still silent, listening on the other end of the phone, she heard that her uncle had been charged with the murder of 5 women whose bodies were beaten and discovered in barrels on his farm and in a storage locker. The police also linked him
to her uncle.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yep. This is what they're finding out. That they found bodies on his farm and that they're also linking him to the disappearance of a 19-year-old woman named Lisa Stasi and the lady's 4-month-old daughter, Tiffany, who had gone missing. This is back in January of 1985. See, Heather's adopted.
Where is this? What part of the country? Did you tell me?
Not yet.
Oh, well, are you going to tell me?
Yes.
Okay, I'll shut up.
We're going to erase that part. See, Heather was adopted, but Heather always knew she was adopted, so that wasn't an issue. But now, what she didn't know, and none of them knew, was how this adoption really happened. Are you ready for this one, Susan? Because this story gets so weird.
You mean this story's fucked up?
Very much so. And so is John Robinson. So let's start with Heather's birth parents, so her real parents. They're Carl and Lisa Eldred Stotzi. They began dating 1983. Lisa was like 18 at the time. And the couple married a year later in their hometown of Alabama. In September of 1984, Lisa gave birth to a daughter who they named Tiffany Lynn, who is actually really Heather. Unfortunately, Lisa and Carl's marriage fell apart, one of those whirlwind relationships.
Mm-hmm.
So Lisa ends up going to stay at the Hope House while Carl reenlisted in the Navy. So the Hope House was a battered women's shelter in Kansas City. Lisa started looking for work, and this is when she met John Robinson, the uncle. We're following that?
Mm-hmm.
But he's going by John Osborne. So John presented Lisa with an opportunity to receive free room and board in exchange for
sexual favors.
Yeah, that's what happens. But she thinks she's going to get a GED and free room and board, and she's going to work for him. He promised a stable living situation in Chicago and even childcare for her baby. But what Lisa didn't know was that John had more sinister plans in mind. See, his brother Donald and his wife Helen, they tried to conceive a baby for about 5 years, but were unsuccessful. They did seek out adoptions, but they had no luck. So Donald got a call from his brother John that he knew of a baby whose mother just committed suicide in a hotel, and the baby needed a home. So, of course, they step up right away to adopt this baby that was in much need of a home. So, Susan, we're guessing where baby Heather came from, right? Turns out Uncle John murdered Lisa Stasi, the biological mother, and conned his own brother out of money on a fake adoption. Just to be clear, Donald and Helen had no knowledge of this. They don't know how messed up John is. But they loved the new baby, and they named the baby Heather. But John Robinson, turns out, he's a serial killer. Like, legit. I mean, his crimes are so messed up. So Lisa, Heather's biological mom, was just one of his many victims. Not only was John a serial killer, but a really good con man. Lisa really believed John was going to help her. See, John made up this charitable organization that he was running to help young women with babies. So this is how he came in contact with Lisa, through the Hope House where she was staying, and they put John in contact with Lisa. This was all taking place back in 1985, so not easy back then to do a quick check on someone and see if they're legit. Like today, we just Google somebody and Google search, and you can learn so much about them. But nobody really knew his past. John picked up Lisa to take her to start what she thought was going to be a life-changing opportunity for her and provide a better life for her daughter, Tiffany Lynn. Lisa was excited about the bright future he promised her and the baby. So one night, she called her mom and her mother-in-law, like frantic, because she was just told that the mother-in-law was trying to take Tiffany away from her. So quick, sign these papers, to stop this. And the mother-in-law said, I'm not trying to take Tiffany away, and do not sign anything. She said, I already did. But they're blank papers. So and then the last thing she heard is, I have to go, they're coming. That's the last time that they heard from her, and she was never seen again. But the family would receive letters that were supposed to be written by Lisa. One letter said, I want to thank you all for all your help. I've decided to get away from this area and try to make a good life for me and Tiffany. See, this is what John would do to his victims. He would send their families letters, making them think they were from the victim, but they weren't. Like this one was typed, and they said, well, she didn't really type. So they knew it wasn't her, but this is a way to keep them off his trail that, he probably...
If Matt tries to off me and you get a typed letter, know that's not for me.
So let's go back to the adoption, though. So John made it all look legal. His brother and his wife signed papers and paid about, I think it was like $5,000. They had all the final adoption paperwork, including a petition for adoption and the adoption decree, which that's like adoption certificate. And they had a birth certificate. However, the attorney whose signature was on the paperwork would later testify that he didn't prepare these documents and his signature was forged. Remember, John's a really good con man. And, that guy had never received any payment, so he was not part of this. I mean, he conned his own brother. The petition and the decree also were notarized by a lady who they say were in a BDSM relationship with John. Oh yeah, this was another part of John's life. That's why his nickname online, he was called the Slave Master. Yeah, John Robinson, he's 50 shades of screwed up. But let's kind of talk about him briefly because he seemed to have a normal childhood.
So where'd he go wrong?
Well, let's see here. John Robinson, he was born December 7th, 1943 in Cicero, Illinois. Seemingly ordinary husband, father, grandfather. However, beneath this facade, he led a double life. Con man, fraudster, ultimately a serial killer who killed and raped many victims. His crimes came to light in the early 2000s, but they had been ongoing for decades.
He raped and killed people for 50 years. Well, not quite 50 years, but...
He was a major con man, which led into the next phase of his life. That's when I kind of paused when you said about what he was getting Lisa into, and you guessed something and I didn't say it. That's why I paused, because we hadn't got to that part yet.
Sorry.
But he was messed up into BDMS. He was to be the master, but people know him as...
There are a lot of people who do that BDMS and they don't murder people.
But he was so into it, almost like a cult. It's really dark, very dark. But people know him as a Sunday school teacher, a scoutmaster, a sports coach. I mean, but they're about to discover he's actually called the world's first internet serial killer. He was known, as we said, the Slave Master. He would meet ladies through BDSM online chat rooms. And
was that his name, the Slave Master?
Yep. So he met these ladies through these chat rooms. He would convince them to become sex slaves. He would even have contracts with them. He had a sick...
And he was married and had a family.
Mm-hmm. He had a sick passion for hurting and dominating women. He even had his victims, sign the contracts, but they would give him control over them and their finances. His upbringing was not a red flag for this deranged person. John was third child of Henry and Alberta Robinson. Now, his father, they did say, was an alcoholic. He battled alcoholism, and his mother, they said, was strict. But Susan, she had 5 kids. And I'm sure she's probably doing it alone. Maybe, the dad having alcoholism, maybe he wasn't involved. And I'm sure the strict was keeping those 5 kids in line. John actually became an Eagle Scout. and had the unique opportunity at age 14 to travel to London with the Boy Scouts. And he did a performance for Queen Elizabeth. That's kind of cool, right? Met the Queen. After the performance, he received a backstage kiss from the famous actress Judy Garland. But around 13, 14, he entered into a seminary for young men who planned to become a priest. But after about a year, he was a bad student. He was poor, he failed, he had so many discipline problems, he ended up leaving.
I'm going to leave the priesthood and go into BDSM.
Well, no, he went to Morton Junior College, located also in Cicero, Illinois, to become an x-ray technician. He actually wanted to become a doctor, but he dropped out of the Morton College. He didn't get very far. So he does move to Kansas City and marries Nancy Jo Lynch in 1964. Apparently, they had a whirlwind romance and married shortly after. They have 4 children, John Jr., Kimberly, and then they have twins Christopher and Christine. In his early professional years, he moved from job to job, often securing positions by falsifying his qualifications. He did crazy things like he'd get hired at Children's Mercy General Hospital as an x-ray technician, but he didn't know what he was doing, so he'd be fired because they figure it out. He literally did not know the hell he was doing. He was such... Yeah. So he defrauded and embezzled numerous companies. He was arrested in 1969 for embezzling $33,000 from medical practice where he worked using forged credentials.
69, right up his alley.
Of course, as a radio, because so he just had, he would take these jobs and he didn't know what he was doing and then embezzle from them. He would get 3 years of probation. He would be convicted many times between 1969 and 1991 for embezzlement, theft, and fraud. But John managed to uphold a respectable appearance while engaging in prolonged deception and theft. His extensive background in cons and fraud set the stage for the even more serious crimes he would later commit against vulnerable women. Now, this is where we become the slave master. Robinson lured his victims through online chat rooms, particularly targeting women who were vulnerable or seeking relationships.
How old is he now? He's in his 50s now, right? 50s, almost 60s.
Mm-hmm. He would present himself as a wealthy businessman or a dominating figure in the BDS community, offering women jobs, financial support, or companionships. But once they trusted him, he would isolate them, often taking them to remote locations where he would kill them. In June 2000, he was arrested at his farm in Kansas after a woman accused him of sexual battery and another charged him with stealing sex toys. Can you imagine going to the police and saying, "I stole my sex toys"?
They're expensive. They're pricey.
But good thing
Have you ever been in Adam and Eve?
I never stepped foot in there, Susan.
Oh, my God.
Can we tell the funny story? I know we don't like banter, but so
yes,
you know where I'm going with this.
I know exactly where you're going, and you have to tell it.
So my daughter, growing up, she thought how did it even come up?
We were in the car going somewhere.
And we can see an Adam and Eve billboard. They're right there out the freeway.
It's the store. The store's right there on the interstate.
But they had a billboard, too, at one time right there.
Yeah. But then she asked, she's in the car with my daughter, my husband, and myself. And very seriously, go ahead, Nancy.
Is that where they sell the Bibles? Yes, Brittany. Yes,
is
Brittany.
That a church?
Yes, Brittany. That's where they sell Bibles.
Yeah.
Adam and Eve's.
Yeah. Is that a Christian store? Is that a church? Adam and Eve?
Yeah. Absolutely. We buy our Bibles there.
My husband said, "Ask your mother." I just said no and laughed.
That's kids are, they're innocent and sweet. So
I wonder if she's been in Adam and Eve.
I don't think so, Susan. My daughter's very respectable.
She's not going to. You can be respectable and go into Adam and Eve. I've been in Adam and Eve.
My daughter's respectable.
I'm telling you, those things are expensive.
I've never been in one. I'm pretty sure she has. If y'all know my daughter, she barely dates. She's always very focused.
She's definitely been in Adam and Eve.
How strong's your drink over there, Susan? Okay, but back to being serious. So, yes, the lady tells the cops about the sex toys, but you know what? Now the cops have probable cause they need to secure a search warrant. During the search of his farm, a task force discovered decomposing remains of 2 women in chemical drums. Investigators also searched a storage facility in Missouri where Robinson had rented 2 garages, uncovering 3 more chemical drums containing more bodies. All the women had died, they probably think from like a blunt force to the head. So in total, he was linked to 8 homicides, but his total victim number remains unknown. John is currently on death row in Kansas. After John's arrest, the connection was made that the baby his brother adopted was really the baby from one of the murder victims.
Oh, my God.
Yep, they were able to confirm that she was Lisa's baby by submitting fingerprints and footprints to the FBI that they matched from the ones that were taken when she was born at the hospital. They also, of course, gave a DNA test to confirm her real identity as well. So Carl, her biological dad, did want to meet Heather, but Heather made the decision back then not to have a relationship with Carl. She said to ABC News, "Inside my heart, I have a dad. I don't need another one."
Oh.
Yeah, but remember, he kind of left the mom. So I'm not sure, but
I mean,
why back then?
You have to respect her decision. That's a lot.
Yeah. But Lisa's mom, so her grandmother, Pat, did make a statement on the news saying, "If our granddaughter is safe and happy, and these people have nothing to do with Lisa's disappearance, and they've taken care of this child, we don't want to take her away. But we want her to know that we're her family and we love her." So Heather did go in to meet with the grandmother. Don Robinson and Helen did legally adopt Heather when she was 18. So Heather is now married with children. She does work openly through the Lisa Stasi Effect. This is an organization she founded to find her mom's remains. To this day, they haven't been found. She wants to bury her properly and give her mom a final resting place. Currently, it's just an empty grave with a headstone to honor Lisa. Heather does make this public post on social media. It says, "It's no question my devotion, obsession, and need to find Lisa. However, that doesn't mean I never had a mother. Childhood to me was rainbow, sherbet, turkey sandwiches with grandma, never-ending errands, doctor's appointments, and some type of extracurricular activity for me. Lip singing and putting on performances for everyone. Easter, Christmas, birthdays, and special occasions with Grandma and Grandpa and Auntie. The Christmas calendar and the excitement to count down each day with you. It was never being allowed to act disrespectful and held accountable for misbehavior, but fiercely guarded and protected. I was a scared, angry, confused child who was absolutely heartbroken to find out I wasn't actually biologically yours without knowing what biology was." So she had great parents growing up. So, I mean, I have a sad story with her mom. At least John gave her to his brother who loved Heather.
That's good. I mean,
I imagine how emotional and traumatic all this had been for her. But when she turned 16, because, she found out at 15. So when she turned 16, I mean, Susan, your 16th birthday is a big deal. Sweet 16. But now she's learning her birthday wasn't even really when she thought. She always thought she was October. And it was September. I mean, it's not a big deal. But imagine as a kid, finding this out. So she says that birthday will be one she'll never forget, but not for the right reasons.
Oh, it's so sad.
Yeah. Heather does write on her blog that I carry on with the hope of being an amazing mom, someone my boys can look up to despite my setbacks and flaws. Heather's story is not just one of pain, but ultimately a story of strength, determination, and triumph over evil. So, Susan, that's why the drink we're having tonight, I have named the Resilient Spirit in honor of Heather. I mean, she went through a lot, finding out the real identity of her mom.
And being 15 and find all that out, that's traumatic in itself. Because at 15, you still are, 15 is not as tough as 13 and 14, but 15 is still tough.
Yeah, and your mom was murdered by a serial killer.
That was your uncle.
That's her uncle. And she even said that. There was something online she was talking about. She went to, was it his son's wedding? It was a wedding, and he was creeping her out and even like, oh, you can call me. Like he is scary and nasty, and he deserves to just sit in prison for the rest of his life. But his sexual crimes that he committed, I mean, it's dark. It's not just raping people.
You could have made a whole miniseries out of this.
We could have done a whole podcast just on him. He's dark and evil and horrible. And his victims, unfortunately, he conned most of them.
Well, there are, you meet men along and women along the way that just they've got this gift that you would follow them anywhere. There are some people who do that.
But you wonder if they really knew what they were getting themselves into, like signing contracts. Like, you probably meet some guy who seems charming and I'm going to take care of you. But I mean, they talked about these men wear robes and they had sex slaves and weights and hung. It's bad.
I don't know. I think some people find that's like, I can go live in this fantasy world.
Right.
For this period of time and be the sex slave. But then Monday morning, I'm going to work wherever I clock it in at 9 a.m. I mean, not that I've ever done it, but I could see where you're like, I'm going to go do this fantasy thing, and then that's fantasy, and I'm going to go back to my normal life.
Yeah.
But people who got roped into him didn't get to go back to their normal life.
Yeah, there's no coming out of it. But then you think of that, remember 50 Shades of Grey? I know I call him 50 Shades of Messed Up, but remember that movie kind of made it a little glamorous. There's nothing glamorous about doing this kind of stuff. So, I mean, to each their own, but do you remember that? Do you remember 50 Shades of Grey?
I did. I flew through the book, watched the first movie, and then lost interest.
Yeah, I never made it past the first movie either.
Yeah, that was that. And even the first movie, I was like, this is not like the book.
Yeah.
I'm very much like that, though. Like, there's not many movies that I've watched that I've read the book that I'm like, eh.
And I love to read. So you're right. A lot of times we're disappointed in those movies. I don't know if I was disappointed in it, but.
Well, and I'll read a lot of books like that anyway. So I like murder mysteries.
But that was when everybody was reading. It was like, I will read like that.
Everybody was doing it. We had to read it.
Yeah. But Heather actually has a podcast and stuff where she talks about this. So I thought that was interesting. And, she'll always try to find her mom, and
and that's part of her healing process.
It'll be interesting to see that if she ever does. But,
yep.
She's a great mom and she's got a great man in her life. And she's resilient. I love that.
And she's got a great story, even though it's one she would probably rather not be connected to. But she is. So she's doing really positive things with it. And you've got to commend people who do that.
Now, they did step out of the limelight for a while. I think they had to kind of get everything. And then she finally did come out. And I think she may be looking for her real dad now. I read that she's ready to, I think, find Carl. At the time, she wasn't. That has to be hard because she knew she was adopted, but she loved them.
Well, how old is she now?
I'm not quite sure, but I mean, what is she, 30s?
Yeah. So she's in her 30s. You change so much.
Shows, yeah.
15, she's like, I don't want anything to screw up my life. At 15, you're like, people leave me alone. And then in your 30s, when you have kids yourself, you want them to know their grandparents. I mean,
so she was. Yeah, was she born in?
Well, she's in her 30s. I have kids in the 30s, and I was a single mother. And if somebody suave would have come up and gave me some kind of, I can do this for you, and I can do that for you, and he seemed like he was a rich, distinguished gentleman, who's to say that I wouldn't have been like, I can make this better life for my kid.
Mm-hmm.
You're trying to make a better life. Somebody's offering it to you. Like, let me help you. Who knows? Thank God I wasn't in that far in the Midwest. But
I went so wrong.
Yeah.
So she's 40.
40.
Two in the matter.
So, yeah. I mean,
I was close. It's about 40. But, yep. So, I mean, she's lucky. I mean, who knows who he could have sold her to, but.
Well, and she's probably thinking too, I'm getting close to 40 or I am 40. If I want to know my biological dad, I need to do it now because he might not be around forever.
Maybe he'll have some more stuff to tell her about her mom, but.
Yeah.
But anyways, well, thank y'all for listening. If you liked the episode, please share and please subscribe to our podcast.
Yes, if you do anything, subscribe to the podcast. Give us feedback. We love feedback. We love feedback. Please send me a message on Facebook at Empty Nesters and True Crime.
Really quick, if you made it this far, you get to hear this fun part of the story. So apparently I didn't know how to say Illinois, and I was saying Illinois, and Susan busted out laughing, so we had to start over. So you didn't have to give me feedback on how to say the state Illinois. Well, thank you all again. And
get her on something else that I missed.
And remember to watch the video to see the drink that we're making. And we'll see y'all next week.
Yep, we'll see you next week. We'll have some more great stories. Tune in, and remember, we're on YouTube, Empty Nesters and True Crime. It's our drink videos. We're not up there telling our podcast yet, but we're working on it.
Thanks for joining us on Empty Nesters True Crime Podcast, where we've delved into chilling mysteries and dark secrets. With their nest now empty, Susan and Nancy will keep uncovering the truth and venturing into the unknown. Until next time, stay safe and step into the shadows with us again.